But no, thank you for joining us. I think what we decided to do here was to hopefully start what we think is a new kind of culture within the organization is to give our board members, the past board members, our donors, updates on what we are doing as an organization. I think there's a lot of things changing within our world and within our context that we just want to make sure that we're able to connect with you in person. So my name is Seun Johnson-Akeju. I am the current president of the IARS for another few months, and I'll be presenting today with um, Vivian Tawfik, who is our president-elect. Viv, do you want to say a quick hi so people can see you?
Yeah, I think so. I jumped a slide forward, but this
Yeah.
is who we are, and I'm happy to be here with you this morning.
Person. And Viv still looks like she does in person. I think my picture, I need to update that picture because um, and I also want to thank our staff members who do all the hard work behind the scenes and who actually came up with this idea to do kind of this update. So Christine, Megan, Andrea, and Tracy are on board. And we also have our new executive director, Andrea Williams on this call. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to do it in two parts, hopefully. I will share some updates, introduce some of the initiatives, and then I'll hand it over to Viv to kind of close us off and give us a sense of some of the things that we're doing in the organization and also with the annual meeting. Next slide, please. So what we'll try to do is go quickly through some major themes. We'll share slides when we're done, and we'll try to give time for questions at the end. There's a lot of information, but if I will leave you with anything, I think the big picture is that recently Tom Cooper, who many of you may know, retired as our executive director, and after a nationwide search, we're able to bring in a new executive director who is Andrea Williams. And Andrea has been fantastic in many regards. I think Bev led that search and helped kind of bring Andrea on board. And I think once you bring in a new leader, it's a new time to start looking at your organization and trying to understand what are the things that we've done well and what are the things that we need to evolve to make sure we're being contemporary. And I think Andrea came in and was able to kind of help us understand that we need legal representation and also a better way to start looking at our finances. And I think one of the first things that happened was we realized that we had to move from what used to be a board of trustees to a board of directors. It seemed like a little semantic, but I think what our lawyers and Andrea let us understand is it's important for making sure that we as board members are protected for legally. And then the other thing that we've been working on is we've been moving from being like a working board to a gradual transition to what we're calling a strategic board, which is the board members come in, set strategy for the organization. And what we do is we create robust committee structures to ensure that we're able to get members of the organization involved in multiple different committees to help, in essence, build engagement with the organization. We moved our board terms from 2 6-year terms to 2 5-year terms. But if I will leave you with one thing, I think one of the most important foundational things we are going to be doing as a board is really transition our organization from one entity, which is a C3, a 501(c)(3), into two different entities, which would be a 501(c)(6) and 501(c)(3). What does that mean? I think what we realized is that we were at risk. We were not only not following contemporary practices, but that we were at risk for what's and this charitable trust kind of test, and that we could have lost our tax exempt status if we didn't think about this carefully. So big picture, we kind of like live or like you all handed us the baton. We are taking the baton forward. And one of the things that you handed us was a robust, I'll say, um, financial structure. So we have an endowment of about $30 million. The world around us is changing. And so the thought is that if our goal is to make sure that we're able to maintain this endowment and not leverage this endowment for operations and be able to fund research and grants, that this C3 will be our charitable organization. That's where the grants will flow through. And then this other organization, the C6, will be where the membership and also the journal lives, and that will be financially separate. Obviously, there are lots of things to be worked through there, but the board voted on this. We're working with our lawyers to get this finalized. But the way I like to think of it is almost similar to what FAIR and ASA is. FAIR is the foundation, and that's where the grants are kind of leveraged and work through. So that's what we will be working through over the next year or so. The board has voted on this. Now we just have to figure out how to operationalize and what moves from one organization to the other. I think there are legal considerations there and also accounting principles that need to be followed. But if I were to leave you with one major thing, it is really that the organization functionally will become two different organizations, but will still function as one. It's the same staff, the same board. We just have to be diligent about when we have board meetings, what notes or meeting minutes do we keep from one organization versus the other. Next slide. So a few other things. Some of you may know that we have a new editor-in-chief of our journal, JD Pandit. He's been doing a phenomenal job in his role. And I think one of the things that we've tasked him with is to make sure that the journal is very much aligned with our strategy. When I say aligned with our strategy, journal is aligned with the meeting, our annual meeting. It's aligned with the grants that we give, and that we're able to actually have publications in the journal that kind of share the world and let people understand what our strategy is. And Bev, you just recently published a paper in a journal that talked about like the history of our work with the brain, the FDA kind of relationship we had with the IARS. So that I think is one of those things that we want to continue doing with a journal. Next slide, please. JD is also working on strategy for the journal moving forward. You may have seen that he's posted for a deputy editor-in-chief. I think what he's really trying to do is leverage A&A practice, like a lot of other organizations are using to leverage kind of like their second journal or secondary journal to make sure that publications that are great but may not make it to A&A could go into A&A practice. And it's really has to do with open access and some of the rules that are changing around publications. So he's thinking through that thoughtfully, and he's I think the application is closed in November. Final selection of deputy editor in chief is going to happen shortly, and the strategy around A&A practice, which over the years had really been for case reports, will really transition into kind of being a companion journal for anesthesia and analgesia. Next slide. So some of the other things that JDIP is doing is, bringing in like an editorial fellowship to really help with engagement, similar to how some other kind of journals in our specialty are trying to train the next generation of reviewers and scientists within our specialty. Next slide, please. And I think the final few things to talk about is we have some new initiatives aligned with our grants and annual meetings, and I'll talk about the grants and awards. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we are launching this year is really something called a Global Scholars Award. And really, the challenge and the task was if we are an international anesthesia research society, how do we support work in lower middle income countries and so I think the board spent a lot of time thinking about this and thinking about what we want to do. And I think what we planned or we're going to support into the next year are awards up to $20,000 in low and lower middle income countries. We're going to give up to 5 awards, and we'll see how that goes. We'll learn from it, we'll iterate, but the goal is to kind of create the infrastructure in this not just countries, but for the awardees to really kind of like do science related to our specialty and elevate our specialty. Once we kind of complete this, there's also the structure of thinking to bring the awardees and make sure they're able to participate in our annual meetings, and also to give them exposure to our kind of editor-in-chief and editorial board of our journals. Next slide. The other thing that we've been working on is our kind of like travel grants. Last year, we gave up to 7 travel grants. for the annual meeting. I think it was a transformative experience, I'll say, for most of the people who came over. There were people from Chile, the people from the African continent who came in, were able to kind of experience our meeting. And we're going to continue doing that. We're going to do it next year. And the hope is that next year we actually will be able to increase this number because there will be personal donations by some of us to name awards after a lot of our mentors and people who've supported the organization. Some of you are on this call, and you may just um, have a travel grant um, named after you to kind of like celebrate you, but also kind of also let our kind of awardees understand that this is what they could aspire towards. And with that, I will pass it on to. So, oh, sorry. And then the final thing before I pass it on is that we have our IARS Mentored Research Awards. I think we've done a great job over the past, I'll say 12, 13 years with this awards. We've given about, let's just say $9 million. And I think more recently we realized that we are not competing with the fair grants per se, but we've realized that we've had the same dollar amount for years. And Andre challenged us and a few other people on the board, including our president-elect, to really think about this, think about how much we want to give out, what's the dollar value in terms of like what people could do with this research dollars. And so the board voted um, at one of our recent meetings to increase the funding from $175,000 to $250,000, and that will start in 2026. We'll also have a committee that's working on, and Viv is helping us lead that committee to try to figure out how many grants do we actually want to give out and what types of grants are we going to be giving out. We've let go of some grants or bringing on some new grants, but the thought is to be very, very, very thoughtful and strategic about what kind of science we want to support and where we want to support. Next. And Viv will kind of talk a little bit more about some of the other initiatives that we're working on.
Great. Thanks, Seun. So as you all know, the annual meeting is really sort of the crown jewel of IARS, and we will be back in Montreal in 2026, which is my hometown. So I'm particularly excited about this. So we hope you can all join us there. There are some new offerings for 2026 that we're really excited to share with you. One is a new award that was named after Emery Brown, who I think you all know, who's a former board member, but also an anesthesia researcher, member of the National Academy, who's really pushed forward anesthesiology and neuroscience research. And we are in particular mentioning this, hoping that you will look back at your own departments and think about nominating really exceptional individuals in the first 5 years of their academic appointments for this award, which will be announced at the 2026 meeting and then will be an annual event going forward. We also will look to honor a Volunteer of the Year. As Seun mentioned, we have many new committees now that have formed. And with that, we have seen so much engagement from our membership. And we really want to make it clear how much we appreciate that by having this Volunteer of the Year award also announced at the annual meeting. Part of sort of revitalizing really and centering science in the meeting is a new president's lecture, which will be the centerpiece of the second day. So we'll have the Selden lecture on the first day and then the president's lecture on the Saturday morning. And this year we're really lucky to have Ed Boyden join us from HHMI MIT to speak about analyzing, repairing, and simulating the brain. So this will be, like I said, a centerpiece of the annual meeting going forward, and it'll also be the lecture at which we will announce the awardees of the two new awards. Also new for this year, and maybe in honor of the fact that we're in Montreal, which is an amazing city to be in, we're going to be hosting a gala for the first time. For those who have been to other meetings in other countries, galas tend to be really just an opportunity to bring people together, but also an opportunity to fundraise and bring more money into the society that we can then grant for all these new grants and programs that Seun mentioned, including travel awards for international attendees, and then grants either through our LMIC grant or through our IMA grant or other future awards that we're going to look to develop. So the gala will be Saturday, May 2nd, and then we'll be selling tables and individual seats when registration for the meeting goes up, I think, in the next couple of weeks. We also have new membership options that we developed over the past few years with the support of the board, including a reduced membership for members from low, middle, and upper middle income countries. We also have an allied health option, postdoctoral and research associate roles, because there's been just an interest in engagement from, people have CRCs working in their labs, and there wasn't really a way for them to become members. So these are all lower cost memberships for these, many of which are trainee members. And then certainly we've continued the complimentary membership for all of our medical trainees as well. We've also been trying to communicate more actively with this membership and really bring in member engagement. So the team has developed a weekly bulletin highlighting what IARS is offering, either through the journals or through the other events that we have and we host, including webinars. There's now a career center, as well as continued use of open anesthesia, which is a very well utilized educational resource, especially internationally, with 61,000 users. As Seun mentioned, we now have more of a strategic board with a committee structure. This is evolving over time. The first committees that we developed of the board were when Bev was leading the board, which was really insightful. And we developed a membership committee that then had three groups off of it. So the Outreach, Retention, Engagement Subcommittee, the International Subcommittee, and the Online Community Subcommittee. And these have just been amazing opportunities for volunteer members to really get engaged and bring forward new ideas to the board that we've then been able to action on. And so you can see things already, like the outreach travel grant was an idea of the international subcommittee, and they're the ones reviewing those applications. The outreach retention engagement committee developed the new clinical trials session at the annual meeting, and the online community through Doc Matters has thousands, if not millions, of daily engagement from members across the world. So they've really contributed in significant ways to the IRS already. We're developing now a new social media committee. As we all know, that is where conversations happen. They may start at the annual meeting, but having them continue through the social media committee is really important. And then we will be developing now an honors and distinctions committee, so that the new awards that we've described will be vetted by this committee going forward to select the awardees for these groups. So we will be making another call for volunteers. We're trying to time this leading up to the annual meeting to sort of encourage people to get involved. I have to say, last year when we did a call for volunteers, I think we got 160 applications for the open spots on our committees. So there really is just incredible engagement with our members, and we're really looking forward to continuing that over the next many years. So with that, I think we will send you these slides. There's also a recording available, and I think we're happy to take questions.